Right now, as you're watching this video, there are invisible forces shaping world events around you. Not conspiracy theories, biblical reality. I've spent 5 years researching ancient texts and historical accounts to uncover how angels have been secretly influencing human history for millennia. But here's what most Christians never realize. The angels aren't just singing in heaven. They're actively changing the course of empires, preventing wars, and orchestrating events that shape your daily life. And the evidence is hiding in plain sight. In the next 20 minutes, I'm going to show you documented cases where angelic intervention altered the trajectory of entire civilizations, and why understanding this changes everything about how you view current world events. Because I've discovered something that most Bible teachers miss. Angels aren't just messengers. They're God's special forces, and their operations are far more strategic than you've ever imagined. 99% of Christians think angels only show up in dramatic moments, burning bushes, fiery chariots, glowing appearances, but that's actually the exception, not the rule. The most powerful angelic interventions in history happened completely behind the scenes, and the people involved had no idea supernatural forces were at work. When we think of divine intervention, we picture the spectacular Elijah's chariot of fire, the angel of death in Egypt, the heavenly host announcing Christ's birth. But these visible manifestations represent less than 1% of actual angelic activity. The Hebrew word malak doesn't just mean messenger. It means one who is sent with a mission, and most missions require stealth, not spectacle. Think about it this way. If you were running covert operations to influence world events, would you announce your presence with trumpets and lightning? Of course not. You'd work invisibly, strategically, leaving no fingerprints. But here's where it gets fascinating. When you start looking at history through this lens, patterns emerge that secular historians can't explain. Impossible victories, last-minute interventions, and timing so perfect it defies probability. Scripture gives us the theological blueprint for understanding this invisible influence. In Daniel 10, we get a rare glimpse behind the veil. The angel tells Daniel he was delayed because he was fighting the Prince of Persia for 21 days. This wasn't a physical battle, this was spiritual warfare over the geopolitical direction of an empire. Angels were literally fighting to influence the decisions of Persian rulers, and it took 3 weeks of supernatural conflict. Ephesians 6:12 confirms this. We wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of the darkness of this world. Angels aren't celestial spectators. They're active agents in a cosmic chess game where every move affects human history. And when you understand this framework, some of history's most pivotal moments start making sense in ways that will absolutely blow your mind. Everyone knows the story of Sodom and Gomorrah's destruction, but most miss the geopolitical implications. These weren't just two random cities. They controlled crucial trade routes between Egypt and Mesopotamia. Archaeological evidence suggests the destruction was so complete it altered the geography of the Dead Sea region. But here's what's remarkable. This single angelic intervention redirected trade routes, shifted regional power, and set the stage for Abraham's descendants to eventually control this strategic corridor. One night of angelic action changed the economic map of the ancient world for the next 1,000 years. But that's nothing compared to what happened during the Exodus, because what most people think was just about freeing slaves was actually a supernatural military operation that toppled the world's greatest superpower. The 10 plagues weren't random displays of power. They were surgical strikes against Egypt's economic and military infrastructure. Each plague targeted a specific Egyptian deity, systematically dismantling their religious and political system. But here's what most miss. Psalm 78:49 reveals the mechanism. He cast upon them the fierceness of his anger, wrath and indignation and trouble by sending evil angels among them. Angels orchestrated the collapse of Egypt's economy, military and government in a matter of months. The most powerful empire on earth was brought to its knees by invisible forces working behind the scenes. The result? A power vacuum that allowed smaller nations to rise, trade routes to shift, and the geopolitical landscape of the ancient world to be completely redrawn. And centuries later, when another empire threatened to dominate the known world, a single angel would demonstrate just how quickly supernatural intervention can change everything. In 701 BC, the Assyrian Empire under Sennacherib was unstoppable. They had conquered nation after nation, and Jerusalem was next. Secular historians confirm that Sennacherib's army was the most advanced military force of its time. But 2 Kings 1935 records what happened next. And it came to pass that night that the angel of the Lord went out and smote in the camp of the Assyrians 185,000, 185,000 soldiers, dead in one night by one angel. Sennacherib retreated, never to return. The Assyrian expansion was halted, preserving not just Jerusalem, but the entire trajectory of Jewish history, and by extension, the lineage that would produce the Messiah. One angelic intervention, one night. The course of world history changed forever. But angels don't just intervene in military conflicts. Sometimes their most powerful work happens in the quiet moments, guiding individuals whose decisions will echo through eternity. When Daniel was thrown into the lion's den, most focus on his miraculous survival. But the real miracle was what happened next. His influence over King Darius led to a decree that went out to all people, nations and languages, acknowledging the God of Israel. This wasn't just religious tolerance. This was the first recorded instance of monotheistic influence spreading throughout a polytheistic empire through governmental decree. Daniel's angelic protection enabled him to shape imperial policy, influencing how millions of people across the Persian Empire would encounter the God of Israel. But perhaps the most strategically important angelic interventions in history were the ones that ensured specific individuals would be born at exactly the right time and place. The angelic announcements to Zechariah and Mary weren't just birth announcements. They were mission briefings for the most important operation in human history. Gabriel's appearance to Zechariah ensured John the Baptist would be born exactly 6 months before Jesus, fulfilling prophecy and providing the forerunner ministry that would prepare the way. The timing was surgical, during a specific priestly course, to specific people, in a specific sequence that would align with Daniel's 70-week prophecy and position Jesus' ministry at the exact moment when Roman infrastructure would allow the gospel to spread rapidly throughout the known world. Angels orchestrated not just the births, but the timing, the circumstances, and the geopolitical conditions that would maximize the impact of the incarnation. And this pattern of strategic intervention didn't end with the apostolic age. Even in recent history, there are documented cases that suggest angelic activity continues to shape world events in ways that most people never recognize. Now that you understand how angels have been invisibly shaping history for millennia, you need to know how this affects your daily life today. Because there's overwhelming evidence that angelic intervention didn't stop with biblical times. It's happening right now in ways that will change how you pray, how you view current events, and how you understand your role in God's plan. So check out this video where I reveal more about angels and show you how to recognize when supernatural forces are at work in your own circumstances.